Yeah, I think one of the best things that you can do is really spend a lot of time practicing and preparing ahead of time. I think a misconception is that the best speakers in the world are just these naturally charismatic, talented people, and they just, scribble some ideas on a napkin and hop up on stage and wing it, and it all just magically works out. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, they spend an enormous amount of time practicing and preparing, behind the scenes, so that by the time they get up on stage, it looks natural, it looks off the cuff, but again, it's because of all the work that they put in. This is not different than if you look at an actor or an actress, in a performance or a play, or if you are watching an athlete or a musician, and it looks like they just get up on stage and they do their little song and dance thing, or they play the sport or activity or game or whatever it may be, and think like, oh, they're just, they're naturally good. And yeah, there may be some level of athleticism or skill or talent that they have, but also they've spent an enormous amount of time working on that behind the scenes. So I think that this is important for speakers as well, is to really spend a lot of time practicing and preparing. A way to kind of think about this is, if you think back to high school, middle school, college, university, and you remember taking a test or an exam of some kind, and you could show up and just kind of, I'm just going to kind of wing it. And oftentimes, like, that just doesn't go well. You don't feel ready. You don't feel confident. You feel nervous going into it. Or you can really spend the time to study and prepare, and you may go in still feeling some of those butterflies, but you also feel a level of confidence of like, I'm ready for this. Like, I've done the work. I'm looking forward to this in a way of like, I know that I'm ready for this moment. And so the same thing is true for speakers, is you really need to spend the time practicing, preparing, so that you show up and you just feel a level of confidence. Another thing to be aware of is, I think sometimes when we feel nerves, or we feel those butterflies, or we feel that anxiety, that we think of it in a negative way, right? But oftentimes it's not necessarily like nerves or fear, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, or I'm going to lose my train of thought, or I'm going to look like a fool up on stage. Oftentimes it's just the excitement and the adrenaline of the moment, and we have a hard time distinguishing between what's excitement and what's fear, because oftentimes the body's reaction is the same. And so think about like other key moments that you've had in life and where you felt something similar. So for example, when if you had a big job interview, or if you went on a big first date, or if you when a kid was born, or when you proposed to your spouse, or any of these, like, or at your wedding, like these big moments where you felt that, and like, you didn't feel like scared of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, but there's just like this excitement, this adrenaline. And so again, the way that you calm that, so it doesn't get to the point of being debilitating and just completely overtake you, is that you spend the time to practice, you spend the time to prepare behind the scenes, so that, yeah, you may feel the excitement, the adrenaline of the moment, but you also have a level of confidence, like, no, I've put in the work. I'm ready for this. I'm prepared.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, the preparation side of things for me, I have to prepare. If I don't prepare, then it can all go wrong. So yeah, I definitely think preparation is good. From your perspective, obviously, I think speaking and presenting is a huge part of developing your personal brand, but also if you're driving a company forward, it can be a really important part of developing your business brand. So what are some of the things that you talk about with speakers in terms of that, in terms of developing the personal brand, developing their kind of presence? What are some of the things that speaking is good for, and how does it help with that?
Yeah, speaking has always been one of those things that people hold in high esteem. And so if you're at an event, a conference, a convention, trade show, whatever it may be, and you are sitting in the audience and you're watching a speaker on stage, there's just a certain amount of authority that we prescribe to that person, right? There's a certain amount of recognition, of expertise, a value that we place on that person, because they were vetted and chosen to speak to this other collection of human beings, right? And so there's just a level of authority that comes with that. And so there's that side of it, that when you are a speaker, you are viewed as and considered the expert. So speaking is great for that. Speaking is great for networking, for meeting other people, whether that's audience members or fellow speakers. Speakers want to connect with other speakers. And so if you're speaking at some type of event where you are seen as some type of expert or authority, it's a lot easier to make connections and build relationships with other people who are also speaking at that, versus, let's say you are just an attendee at a conference trying to connect with some type of speaker. They're like, they may not necessarily look down upon you, like in a negative way or anything, but if you're kind of random audience member versus like, oh, here's this other speaker that I view on the same level as me, so to speak. Again, none of this is like in a negative context, but just like, I know that this speaker is also like maybe that caliber of human or entrepreneur that I want to connect with or talk to. So it can be really, really good from a networking standpoint as well. Speaking can also be great for lead generation, depending on like the nature of your business, what it is that you're doing. If you have some type of product or service that you offer, there's a lot of speakers that use speaking as lead gen, where they may go in and speak about, a certain subject or topic, and then there's going to be audience members who are saying like, hey, that was awesome. Can I hire you to help me implement that or apply that? Or can you come teach that or train that to my company or to my team or whatever it may be? And so speaking can work really, really well from that standpoint as well. So yeah, whether or not you want to, again, you want to speak a couple times a year or you want to speak full time, I think every entrepreneur should strongly consider speaking being part of the repertoire of what it is that they offer.